motors that are responsive to each of our cells. So when we eat food, for example, glucose, that's going to enter into our cells, and through three main metabolic pathways, that glucose is going to get converted into ATP. And the three main pathways remain glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain.
These three pathways are linked in our cells. Glycolysis occurs outside the mitochondria, uses no oxygen, and quickly produces only 2 ATP. It also produces a chemical that triggers the Krebs cycle. Both the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain happen inside the mitochondria, use oxygen, and together produce as many as 36 ATP, fuel essential for endurance performance.
After about 30 seconds or after a minute or two, depending on how much glycogen reserves we have, we need to switch over into other fuels that get metabolized through the mitochondria. We actually have a fixed number of muscle cells. So when we're doing exercise training, one of the things we're doing is we're increasing mitochondria number.
But not all exercise training is equal, as Ariana Green saw when she danced the Nutcracker.
I remember being dumbfounded when the prima ballerina came backstage, and I thought she was gonna die. She was panting. She said, "Please, somebody, stage hand, under my costume. I can't breathe. I can't do anything." And later I realized that this happens all the time. These beautiful dancers don't have stamina, don't have endurance.
Dancers train for precision, strength, and control. But they may not build up stores of mitochondria in their muscles, so they rely heavily on fuel produced in glycolysis. But no matter how much mitochondria we have, at some point they perform less and less efficiently. Part of the reason has to do with a unique feature of mitochondria. They have their own second set of circular DNA. And that DNA may have everything to do with the difference between these muscles and these.
There's a mitochondrial DNA theory of aging. Mitochondrial DNA have poor DNA repair mechanisms. And on top of that, mitochondrial DNA tend to accumulate more mutations at a higher rate than the nucleus. And this is because the mitochondrion is exposed to a lot of oxygen, and sometimes the oxygen can have toxic metabolites that can lead to mutations in the DNA. So we believe that one of the things that's happening is that as mitochondrial DNA accumulates mutations,
we need oxygen for the cat for us.
Energy in an efficient manner decreases. And that this is what might be contributing to the aging process.
Oxygen invigorates the work of mitochondria, but may also lead to their destruction. Our cells are the stage for everything that happens in our bodies: life, energy production, aging, and mitochondria play center stage.
Mitochondria numbers vary. We can increase mitochondria in our muscles from training. We have anaerobic and aerobic processes in our muscles. These are some of the main points of this. All right, so we're going to look a little bit at a difficult topic, really, depending on how in depth we want to be on it. There are some aspects of this I get to hear about again. But in muscle contraction, we have what's called a sliding filament model, where we have two different filaments that slide together, and that's the contraction. That's the muscle contraction. That's the mechanical work. And what provides the energy, as really is every energy source directly used by our cells, at least, is ATP and hydrolysis. like an ATP. Now here's the thing about ATP. You never store much of it. It's not an energy storage molecule. So as soon as you do something, if we could shut off all the supply of things that become ATP, your ATP would be used up in a second or less. It's hard to imagine. I mean, I couldn't finish a sentence before I got too tired to do it. So, and then I would die. So we can only support a muscle contraction for about 1 second. So that means we've got to constantly be regenerating ATP, right? Every second of the day, really. So it's not an energy storage, it's transmitter. So here we're going to look at some of the options of what we can do to regenerate ATP. Well, we also create a molecule called creatine. You may be familiar with creatine. You can buy this as a supplement. It's a diet supplement. It's meant to be high energy, to help your performance in sports and athletics. Personally, I'm not sure that's what it does. I think you can get it somehow in your bloodstream, yeah. But my guess is that you just digest it, so it probably does have energy, right? Just like any kind of food. But I've had students tell me they really believe in this as a way to boost the your muscle energy. So I'm not sure, but the creatine phosphate obviously has a phosphate stuck to it, right? That's a high energy bond. And what that can do is take that phosphate from the creatine phosphate over here to the left of this diagram, and it can add the phosphate to ATP. So here's our phosphocreatine right here, right? That's a phosphate added in a high energy bond. That's a creatine phosphate. The phosphate can be added to ADP to make ATP almost immediately. Okay? Now we can use that ATP. Now we go more than a second before we collapse in exhaustion. Okay? Then we have to use one of the things we can use ATP for is to add it back to the creatine phosphate. So when we're eating or we have plenty of energy, right, we can do a lot of this, and we can generate phosphocreatine. When we need the energy, we can get it back fast, very rapidly. Does that make sense? We're really just transferring the phosphate from the creatine to the ADP, okay, to get our ATP. But we've got to do that in reverse too when we can, right? Anytime we have energy, excess energy. Okay, so now we have two sources. This one also really doesn't last very long. You don't have a lot of creatine phosphate in your muscles. It's not going to last very long. So we need other sources. So we can have sugar, our blood sugar. We can metabolize that. And then another source is breaking down glycogen into sugar, right, into glucose. So we can turn glycogen into glucose, and we can undergo cellular respiration. Again, we haven't really studied what that is yet, but right, we can get ATP from glucose. Really, we get NADH. So I've just put a few things here in order. Immediately, you use up all your ATP, right? Almost immediately, within a second or less. Then creatine phosphate lasts a little bit longer, 4 to 10 seconds down here, or maybe up to 45 seconds. Right? Not that long. Not that long. And then we have blood glucose, blood sugar. You know, it's not like we just would want to do that at a time, and we're doing all of these all the time, pretty much. Maybe not the glycogen. Glycogen hydrolysis, we need, you know, that's our stored energy. Maybe we're just resting, we're probably not breaking that down. As long as we're well fed, as long as we're not starving to death, we're probably not breaking down glycogen. But if we're exercising, that's where we start to get into a longer term exercise, or energy right down here, up to 3 minutes, and then beyond, really. Okay. Some of these could be anaerobic or aerobic processes, and then some of these aerobic naturally. So when you look at time frame, we don't need a lot of oxygen early on to get energy. Again, we haven't looked at what this all means, but this is a process where we're headed over the next several days or couple weeks. Some of our processes don't actually require oxygen, but you can see the long-term ones down here. If we're exercising for a long time, we've really got to use a lot of oxygen. You guys kind of know that, right? When you're working out, you can breathe harder. You need more oxygen when you're running away from or something. All right, they mentioned in that video about the muscle bundle types. This will be something to write down on a handout you got, I think. I can never memorize this very well. There's a couple things seem backwards to me. But we've got our slow twitch or fast twitch. Fast twitch or immediate energy, slow twitch tend to be longer term energy. We're born, there's other types of muscle bundles, but these are the two major ones. We're born with a certain percent of these. You can't really change those percents, but you can favor one over the other in your exercise. So the fast twitch do not require oxygen to get their energy. They tend to be more powerful, but they weaken quickly. Our slow twitch don't fatigue as easily, and they can contract over and over and over, and they tend to work aerobically. They do require oxygen. So this is our dark and white meat, basically. Right? Muscles that are rich in slow twitch fibers are going to be darker, and that comes from what? The number of mitochondria. So yeah, the high number of mitochondria is what causes it to look darker. So these are the long-term kind of muscles. The actin myosin, these are the proteins that are in the muscle itself. Myoglobin, sounds a little bit like hemoglobin, right? What's hemoglobin do? Hemoglobin carries oxygen. Myoglobin stores oxygen. It's a little bit like creatine phosphate. Right? It's kind of a reserve of oxygen. Some people were born with much higher myoglobin levels. Whales, in fact, which aren't people, but whales, some of the diving whales, have very high myoglobin levels. Right? That's one of the reasons they can dive for so long without getting oxygen. They can store the oxygen in their blood in the form of myoglobin. I'm not sure, does anybody know, anybody in athletics enough to know if we can change that myoglobin level? Does that change with exercise? I'm not sure if we can alter that or not, or if it's more genetic. We're stuck with what we are when we're born. A couple of these don't make that much sense to me. This one in particular, I would think glycogen hydrolysis would actually be high in the slow twitch and lower in the fast twitch. I've looked this up several times, but I always look at it and I must have that wrong in the notes. Same with this one in a way, it seems a little bit reversed. The actin myosin activity. The other ones make sense to me. Those two seem backwards. But again, I looked it up a lot, so I'm not sure I understand why the reasons for those two. All right, let's look at muscle structure. Muscles are one of these things you go further and further in depth, and you always find something new. So we're going to start on the outside, kind of the big picture, and work our way down more and more to the biochemical aspect of this. And we'll do it through YouTube.
There are almost 600 muscles that cover the entire skeleton. The joints of the human skeleton allow bones to move in certain directions, but it is the muscles that do the actual work. Muscles are made of numerous bundles of very thin fibers. Each of these bundles is enclosed in a sheath called the sarcolemma, which in turn are made of filaments called myofilaments. These myofilaments are made up of contractile proteins called actin and myosin. The attraction between these proteins causes muscles to contract. A single muscle always contracts 100%, and the way we control the strength of a contraction is to employ more muscle fibers, giving the muscle more strength. There are three types of muscles in the body: cardiac, smooth, and skeletal. Cardiac is the muscle of the heart. Smooth muscle is visceral muscle that controls movement of the internal organs of the body, such as moving food down the digestive tract and keeping the blood flowing through the arteries. These are all involuntary movements. Skeletal muscle is attached to your bones and is controlled by the person. This muscle is also attached to bones via tendons, which are like tough, strong ropes. Muscles can only contract, they cannot push. To accomplish any kind of motion, muscles usually work in pairs, such as the biceps and triceps shown here.
All right, so muscles only work one way, kind of like toilets. It's not going to flush until you push it far enough, and then it flushes, right? It contracts. Either they contract or they don't. So for strength, you want more to contract. All right, that was pretty straightforward and fairly simple. But there's our muscle, right? There's the muscle bundles, all bundled together to make a muscle, and then the muscle bundles or muscle fibers all bundled together. We get down to individual fibers. We have these different filaments. We have the myofilaments. We have the myosin, the thick filaments, and the actin. These are both proteins, and we're looking at them well, in cross-section, or in that case, some of them have little heads and tails, so the myosin has some other little bits and pieces to it. When we look at muscle fibers, this kind of striated muscle, at least, the ones with the fibers, bands rather, we look at under a microscope, we see something like this. Well, these are the different fibers, the thick filaments, the myosin, and the thin filaments, the actin. Where they overlap, it's going to look darker. All right, here's where they're overlapping in this darker area. We also have places where they're attached, and those show up as well under the microscope. And then a little bit lighter band in here where we don't have the actin or the myosin. So as a diagram of this, we've got relaxed muscle, and here it's partially contracted. So we're starting to slide. The thumbs are sliding in. And fully contracted, we're going to be in as far as they can be. So these will look a little bit different under the microscope when contracted.
Skeletal muscles, like the biceps brachii, attach to bone via connective tissue called tendons. Muscles are composed of bundles of muscle fibers. Each bundle is separated by connective tissues known as perimysium. Each fasciculus is made up of muscle fibers, which are separated by connective tissue called endomysium. Skeletal muscle fibers, or cells, are multinucleated and striated in appearance. Muscle cells are composed of subunits called myofibrils. Each myofibril is made up of several myofilaments. The two types of myofilaments, shown in red, are composed primarily of the protein myosin, and a thin myofilament, shown in blue, composed mainly of the protein actin. The repeating arrangement of thick and thin myofilaments serves as the fundamental subunit of striated muscle contraction. These subunits are called sarcomeres. A sarcomere contraction is represented by the shortening of the distance between the Z lines. The sarcomere shortens because the thin filaments slide past the thick filaments. In 3D, each thick myofilament is surrounded by 6 thin myofilaments arranged in a hexagonal pattern. The 3D arrangement of sliding myofilaments is the microscopic basis of muscle contraction.